Today, I'm channeling on how to navigate the upcoming financial difficulties. So we're drawing to the end of March 2021, and there's mass unemployment around the world, lockdowns, incredible amounts of money printing, reduction in small business, so there's less of an economic engine, and so on and so on. There are so many reasons why an upcoming financial dilemma is very, very likely. So, if this is coming, which it looks like it is, I'm not quite sure how it could be avoided at this stage. How do we navigate that? How do we go about that? What does it mean to us? What can be drawn from it? Is there something good in it? Is it all bad? I just want to know that. Okay, so let's see what we got. Greetings and thank you for the question. How to navigate the upcoming financial difficulties. Let us start by painting a theme, which is contrary to what most people would, in the human experience on Earth, assume is the likely scenario. And the reason that we want to start this way is because the images you may be holding of what lays on the other side of an economic breakdown have been programmed into you through the narrative, through the matrix, through the news and entertainment media parts of the dark cabal's apparatus. This dystopian post-apocalyptic future, which you have seen many, many times in your media, is a predictive programming. It is a type of world that they wish the mass of the human population to manifest once they have created the conditions, which you also have been programmed to believe are the catalyst for this outcome to develop, where there is abject poverty, rise in violent crime, and roaming gangs who indiscriminately kill those they come across for no other purpose than to exploit them of their resources. So there is now a fear that you cannot trust the people that once upon a time were contributing members to the same community which you belong to. In the cities, in the states, in the nations where you have been and raised for generations, with a degree of unity and cooperation sufficient that there is a unified purpose as such, and people agree that they will treat each other well and allow everybody to have access to the same opportunities and resources which are the product of this community. So this alternate theme that we would like to give to you as a beginning to this conversation, which is contrary to this dystopian future you have been exposed to over and over and over through the media, is that it is the potential for a completely new paradigm, which is very contrary to this dystopian future which has been portrayed to you through the media. It is a profound opportunity to shift out of the system that has been dominating and impoverishing and indoctrinating and making more ill and so on the people of your planet. It is going to be a reset, as the elites like to call it. And of course, for them, the reset means a movement into a system where there is greater control, there is a massive diminishment in the liberties of the individual. And at the same time, there is an explosion in the privileges and the abundance and the prosperity and the capacity to hedonistically indulge for the elite. They will be less subject to the laws which supposedly govern the planet. There will be an increasing separation where they exist even more so above the laws than they have been in the past. Because although they are relatively untouchable compared to the laws and restrictions which the average human on this planet faces, they were still subject to a degree repercussions for the things they had done which became into the public awareness. To maintain a sense of balance sufficient that there is not an uprising, there is not revolt over this two-tiered system, then some of the elite were, in a way, made to pay a price or sacrifice, even if it was only symbolically, so that the masses felt there was some equality in the laws, in the way they were applied. And those who are powerful also had to face the repercussions for the crimes they had committed. But in this new system, in this great reset, which the elites are pushing, then they will become even less so subject to the laws under which you and all your fellow humans will find yourselves if this great reset is to occur, is to come out as they have anticipated and planned and driven in their agenda for a very long time. But always keep in mind, they are very few and you are very many. So the capacity for influence over what is being done on this planet is very much within the masses than it is within the elite. The elite have control, but essentially they don't have influence other than the influence you allow them to have. It is your acquiescence, it is your continuing to comply, which is the source of their power. So it is you giving your power away, which is the source of their power, because they are yet a small number. There are very few. And so how could a very few have power over the overwhelming majority when the disparity in the numbers are so dramatic? We are talking many billions versus perhaps millions, less, depending on how concentrated you put your focus at the top of this pyramid of the elites. At the very pinnacle, perhaps there is a number of 20,000, 50,000 at the very, very pinnacle of this apparatus which they control. And you compare this number to the many billions within the human field. So how could they have power in any other way other than the masses surrendering their power, complying, acquiescing, continuing to follow the rules? So this means, right now, is the precipice, is the verge for dramatic change. Change into this model that they have designed and thrust upon the earth-human field for no other reason than to consolidate their power, to increase their power, and to increase the suffering of the human field, whom they, in the most part, despise and perceive as undeserving intruders into the earth-human field. And so they must be made to suffer for their transgressions, for their own unholiness. This is a mindset which pervades those who are at the very pinnacle of these elite that make the decisions which push the world in the directions that it is going. Especially so, especially visible now that they have this pandemic, as they call it. This so-called global crisis, which those that are waking up are realizing has been manufactured. And as more and more become awake, and they continue with their agenda, it is becoming more clear that they act in the interests of themselves. And this outcome they wish to manifest is not going to be an outcome which improves the lives of the masses in any way. So this precipice, this verge, where there is this gauntlet or the doorway of reset, of change, of profound shift, is about to be passed through, is in fact being stepped through at this very moment. If that first step through the doorway is a step into your own power, into bravery, into courage, into a forthright realization that you have been endowed with rights by virtue of birth, which cannot be taken from you in any other way than your surrender of them. And so when you step into them and you embrace your endowment, then the natural manifestation of this will be to say no. No more. No more shall I comply. No more shall I acquiesce. So while this may not be sufficient to stop the collapse of this financial system that they have created, and they have created it with the intention that eventually it shall be collapsed, so that it can be replaced with this new system, this new reset paradigm they have planned for a long time. And so while their system may not be held up by the masses, why would you want it to be held up? What has it done other than strip the masses of their wealth? The US dollar has declined in value by the high 90 percentages. The purchasing power of a US dollar is now a penny or two of what it was before their central banking system was introduced more than 100 years ago. So why would you want to keep this system afloat? It must come to an end for the new paradigm to begin. It must collapse, and during this period of collapse, there is going to be hardship, there is going to be difficulty, but this is the churning of the soil before you plant the seeds of the next crop. There is turmoil, there is a hazy view of what is going to be developed. There is an intangibility which requires faith, which requires belief that something great can grow from this. And so when this collapse occurs and it is time to step through this doorway, you step into your power. And at this same time, you reject the system being offered to you by the elite. Having faith that the rejection done en masse by all of the people will accelerate the manifestation of a replacement paradigm. A replacement paradigm that has also been planned by benevolent groups and entities that have for a long time been battling and working to halt the elite in their tracks, to disintegrate their empire. And this is why humanity finds itself where it is right now. Because this agenda, this pandemic, for the rapid amount of change which has occurred in the last 12 months on your planet, was not intended to occur now. It was meant to occur at a later date, when more of the ducks were in a row, where the infrastructure required for this great reset by the elite was more primed, prepared. However, the raising of human consciousness, the awakening of the humanity being, and these benevolent forces, both terrestrial and extraterrestrial and interdimensional, have been working to be prepared for when this doorway of reset is reached. And this has forced the elite to bring forward their agenda. So it is now unfolding at a time when they weren't properly prepared, where they are at their most vulnerable. And this is something to be very aware of, because this is, right now, at this moment, the most vulnerable the elite have ever been of losing their dominance over the earth. Because when there is the reset and the current system disintegrates intentionally, when they essentially push the button for the financial collapse which they have been priming for a long time, for maximum devastation, at this moment of reset, this is when there will be a transition into a new system. And it is their plan, the transition will be into their new system. But in this period of flux, when there is uncertainty, there is a churned garden bed. It is also the moment when the transition can be into a new system which they do not have the dominant control over, which would be, in a sense, a loss of their power, of their dominance, of their control, and the beginning of the end of their paradigm, of their rule. Because consequential to a movement into a system they don't control is a massive diminishment in their power. And when their power is massively diminished, then they will be drawn down from their lofty positions into a realm of equality with all others, meaning that they shall be subject to the laws, which all of the earth field is when the paradigm is balanced. The pandemic and the vaccinations and the lockdowns and all of the mandates that have been implemented on the earth have been done completely agenda driven to bring about this great reset paradigm that they have been planning upon. And so they have done many things which are atrocities, which have resulted in the deaths of many hundreds of thousands of people. they are and shall be tried as war criminals, crimes against humanity. And so have the courage to not comply, have the courage to not acquiesce, have the courage to endure a period of flux, of diminished financial prosperity, access to resources, so that it allows the new future, which is a blossom for all of humanity, to germinate, to get hold, to grow, peak above the soil, to become robust enough that its flower can blossom, and the new future for humanity is assured. We make this point because when there is going to be financial difficulty, a diminishment in your capacity to gather resources, to buy the things that you need, this is a problem that they will intentionally create because they want you to accept their solution. And their solution will be offered to you as some permutation of free resources, free money, free prosperity. And this will be offered to you when you are at your lowest, so as to lure you into their paradigm, into their reset model, where then you become locked in to their paradigm, over which they have complete and total control. And for you to continue to receive access to these resources, it will be required that you surrender many of your liberties, including the composition of the fluids that circulate around your body. You will be required to receive injections of chemicals in order to receive access to life-sustaining resources. This is not freedom. This is permission. They are giving you permission to live. However, born as a human being, it is your freedom to live. It is your birthright to live. You do not need to ask for permission to survive. But this is what you are doing if you choose to go into their paradigm. If you choose to step through the doorway into your own power, realizing it is the time of the elite's greatest weakness, greatest vulnerability. It is the best opportunity Earth humanity has had for hundreds of years, thousands of years, to break out of the system and to create a new organic model of humanity where the culture arises from the grassroots and is an extension of the burgeoning, blossoming human wisdom, the combined sentience of all humanity into the humanity being. In that paradigm, the post-financial apocalypse is not dystopian. It is instead utopian. It is a shared empathy, a shared love, a shared benevolence among all people. Purging of the darkness, realizing that the hardships that have been faced in the human paradigm have not been because of the failings in humanity as much as was believed, but has been because it was intentionally designed and injected into the system by the elite, who wished to create suffering, to create cacophony in individuals and in groups of individuals, to sow hatred and division, so that there could never be a unification into the single humanity being, which would shed the elite like a dog scratching at a flea. In this reset that has incorporated you and all those in the human field with you, stepping into their power, declaring that they shall no longer comply and acquiesce. This future is the golden future. It is the first stone on the new path for humanity. It is the first step on the stairway to ascension. It is the beginning of the blossoming of the earth being. Because you are part of the humanity being. You are a group being yourself, and you are part of the larger group being, which is the humanity being. And the humanity being is part of yet larger group being, which is the earth being. And the earth being is ready to blossom. Because when the human field realizes that it is the single being, the humanity being, and the humanity being awakens with the realization that it is part of the earth being, then in a sense, the humanity being, which is all of humanity, will become the sentience of the earth, realizing that it is the earth. And then the earth will be covered with a highly intelligent and awakened version of itself, its own sentience. The humanity being will be the sentience of the earth. Awakened, loving, benevolent, caring of the earth. It will be the earth caring for itself. It will be the earth, for the very first time, having a capacity to cleanse its waters, to clear its air, to protect all of the facets of itself in a very profound and effectual way through its own sentience, which will be the human earth field. And then this fractal relationship, which can be seen in many different ways within the one. The earth shall blossom in the same way that a flower blossoms. When a flower is ready, when the conditions are right, when it is the exact moment, when the release of the genetic code into the environment is going to have the greatest chance of spreading, increasing the reach of the genetic code of this plant, of its species, of that which it represents, across nature, far and wide, distributing the genetic code, mixing, increasing the complexity and the network relationship, the integration of all of nature, of everything into the one thing. Then in a fractal way, this will occur with the earth. When the earth has stepped into itself, it is in an ascended state, covered by an ascended species. that has fully awakened that it is the humanity being which has awakened into with the realization that it is the earth being, then this will be the blossoming of the earth. And the subsequent space-capable earth sentience, the humanity being, the human field, will spread into the cosmos, into the solar system, beyond the solar system, throughout the galaxy, beyond the galaxy, and will be spreading the genetic code of the earth. Just as the pollen spreads, the pollen, the seeds and so on spread the genetic code of the flower. This is what awaits. And it is an inevitability. However, what is at stake is how soon is this paradigm reached? And when it is reached, how much of the human field shall be included in it? This is determined also on an individual basis. If you make a choice in this moment of reset, which gives you a short-term sense of security, but the price you pay is a surrender of more and more of your liberties, then you are going to create a paradigm where the state of being, which is held by most of the people who are in this paradigm, will be one which is of the darkness, which is not love and its derivatives, but is fear and its derivatives. And this is not an honouring of the one. This is a denial of the one. You are here so the one can have an experience of itself through the unique perspective which is you. It is when you hold the love and its derivatives, when that is your state of being, and the one experiencing self through you has a very clarified experience of itself, and divine purpose is fulfilled. So, you are here to fulfill divine purpose. That is why you have come. To know yourself as the one, so the one shall experience itself through the unique perspective which is you. So to be congruent for this reason, for this purpose, make choices that in the overwhelming outcome, the greatest propensity of the state that shall be held is for love and its derivatives. So if you choose to comply, to acquiesce, while you may have the momentary reprieve from the pressure of this financial shift, it will be a surrendering of you and those around you and in your progeny, those who shall follow, into a system which will be designed to keep you oppressed and in suffering perpetually. And then there will be less honouring of the one. The purpose shall be less fulfilled. And this will be antithetical to the reason that you have come here. However, if you choose to not comply, to not acquiesce, to step into your power, to say no, that is enough, and to rally those around you to form a single being, the unified being, so that together all of you can bring about a new paradigm that is not dystopian as they have been trying to program you to believe, but instead is utopian. When you say no to their reset system, that is not choosing dystopia, that is choosing utopia. That is choosing a future which, when the difficulty is passed through and the seed is allowed to germinate and get root and then peak above the ground and grow enough to become sturdy and blossom, then this is going to create a perpetual future where the capacity to hold love and its derivatives, as the predominant state of being, will be the commonality amongst all of the human field. And so the one shall be honoured in the most profound and potent way. And the one shall experience itself in every waking moment, through every unique perspective of itself in the human field. So, this is the choice to be made. We do not judge, although it is clear we have a preference. We understand that the path is the path that you choose. It is all the perfection. So we leave it to you. We are here as your guides, your mentors, and as such, we give you our recommendation. But ultimately it's for you to decide. And no matter what the choice is that you bring into yourself, we will love you no less. We will honour you no less. Because ultimately it all goes back to the one. You are invulnerable to what occurs here in the lifetime. So it is just experience. And when it is concluded, you will return to your state of pure love. So this is for you to choose. In a more practical sense, before we conclude this channel, it is quite likely that those who are watching have come here for some practical advice, rather than just the esoteric talk of the energy and state of being, although that is the most powerful. That is what it's all about. You are an energetic being, living in an energetic paradigm. And so nothing will ever be as powerful as the use and understanding of the energetic that you are and the power that implies. The practical advice we would give is, if you have money or if you have value, wealth, which is within a system that is completely part of this paradigm. So if you have money in the bank, if you have your wealth in cash money, in the fiat system, which is part of the centralized banking paradigm that the elites control, then it is our recommendation that you transfer that wealth out of that particular asset into something else. Something that will retain its value, some type of physical asset, so that when the elite push the button to collapse the system, they have primed for collapse. And the value of this asset, this fiat system of the dollars and pounds, which circulate as currency within the nations across the world, when they shed their value, if you have gotten out of these assets and place them in something which will retain its value, then you will be, to a great degree, inoculated from what takes place. So, look at the assets you have. Determine which ones are vulnerable to this change, which would be vulnerable if the currency you hold were to collapse, so that its value became virtually nothing overnight, or in days, in months, in a very short time. If that type of event would harm you, then we recommend you consider transferring to an alternate collateral, an alternate way to maintain that value within an asset. And then when the new paradigm emerges, then you can transfer the value from that asset into the resources you need. So if you're unsure, then we recommend that you do some investigation, that you consult some experts. Because there is a lot of information, there's a lot of the financial industry who are aware this is coming and are giving sound financial advice about how to protect yourself from such an event, which now is approaching rapidly. So, it is getting very, very close. Can you feel the acceleration of what is occurring on your planet? The condensing timeline. So much is happening in such a short amount of time. There is a compression. It is a spiraling. In the Fibonacci sequence, to the very end, we're approaching the singularity, where there shall be a passing through into a completely new paradigm. As approaching this singularity point, time is compressing, and more is occurring in a shorter amount of time. And this is exciting, because when the singularity is reached, passing through the singularity into the new paradigm which lay on the other side is the birthing of something entirely new. This is very, very exciting for us to observe. And we have great faith that Earth, humanity shall find its way. We can see it happening before our eyes. The tones of the energies which are pulsating through the humanity being indicate to us a very exciting future. So have faith. Love the self. Make love and its derivatives your eternal state of being. And expand that love as a field of empathy and loving benevolence to include all of the human field. Recognizing you are one, uniting as one, standing as one, ascending as one. Thank you. We love you.